Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, once again to another Three Marlets trailer reaction. Now, of course, I've already done the first trailer for Resident Evil Retribution. I've done my reaction to that. And I will admit, I've been somewhat scant on doing these trailer reactions, even though they're incredibly easy to do. I do apologize. I do work. So, yeah, I have a life, guys. But I decided to do this one. We've had the teaser trailer, which isn't the full trailer. Now we have the full trailer. And if you want to know the difference between the two, the teaser just kind of tells you a movie is being made. Normally it doesn't tell you what the plot of the movie is. The trailer will tell you what the actual plot of the movie is, give you some more details. And you kind of need it, because John Carter never got past the teaser aspect. But that's for another discussion, because we're here about Resident Evil. Now, if you want to know my opinions on the Resident Evil franchise, they are well known. Check out my channel. I have several reviews and discussions on the Resident Evil movie franchise. I don't think I have hit any of the games yet. I should do some retrospective stuff when it comes to the games. But that's another discussion, because as I've clearly stated, I have just learned to accept that the Resident Evil movies have nothing to do with the Resident Evil game series, and I treat them as such. In my opinion, there's only been one Resident Evil movie, and that's Resident Evil Degeneration. These other movies just happen to have the same characters' names and happen to have the name Resident Evil. Strange coincidence. If you go in with that, you can judge these movies really on their own. And, well, that still doesn't mean they're necessarily great. It certainly helps. But this one's looking interesting. I guarantee you when we get to the commentary, Paul W.S. Anderson is either going to be saying he saw The Matrix when he was writing this movie, or he was watching Inception before he started writing this movie. In the same way that before he did Extinction, he said he'd sat down and watched Mad Max, and then he went and decided to write the Extinction script. Because we have Alice is now having dreams within dreams, or she's in the Umbrella version of The Matrix. Alright, how it goes is basically, we know Resident Evil has this, I don't want to say trope, but it has a tradition with its trailers, ever since the second trailer, which I always like this about at least the marketing campaign, where they pretend in the teaser that it's a commercial for a product. And they really kind of started doing this when, putting commercials in front of movies became popular. Before they hit the trailers, you'd have a couple commercial products. And it was a good way to sucker people into the movie, to really go, oh, what the fuck? Oh, it's a movie. We're into the teasers. Oh, I thought this was another commercial. And, from a marketing perspective, since, okay, it wasn't the first thing to ever do that, but it was rare enough that I think it actually did help get the franchise more widespread knowledge, get some people interested that wouldn't have normally seen it. But they've always done that with the teasers, and then the trailers have always been traditional. In this one, they don't fake it with a product, but they do make it seem like this is a completely different movie when it starts off. It starts off making it look like a romantic comedy. We see old Farah in there, Carlos is like Alice's wife, and it just looks weird with those two in like normal civilian clothing. I don't get why it does. I suppose that's part of it. That's actually works though for what this film's kind of going for. Maybe that's just me, but it seems weird seeing old Farah in a shirt and tie, and seeing Milla Jovovich in like normal civilian clothing, even though I've seen her in movies with that. So there's some sort of subtle artifice that they've somehow put in there that made that work. I don't know how, but I'll give them some credit when it comes to that. But I digress. Anyway, and then of course a zombie pops into their breakfast and starts realizing, oh, you're in a Resident Evil film. So it once again appears that, well, here, before I get into what else I saw in the trailer, we have to address this, because, okay, we're implying that the Umbrella is feeding Alice false information so they can experiment on her. Why, I'm not sure, because they sort of said they've perfected the T-virus already. You know, Wesker has said he created a more perfect, more powerful version and gave it to himself. Were they BSing? I don't know. They kind of already took her powers away, too. Regardless. Anyway, it's implying that they've used her, they're keeping her under sedition, and have perfected the T-virus, and have now taken over major cities, and are kind of like, I guess, running them as a totalitarian state or something. I don't know. But some people are interpreting this to mean that the previous 3 movies, the first one actually happened, but then Apocalypse, Extinction, and Afterlife never did. I don't get that from this trailer. I don't know if there's a leaked script out there, but I don't get that. What I get is that they're putting her under, and she's having these kind of weird dreams, which is why we're having the Raccoon City stuff and some other things, and that's how they're keeping her controlled, through implanting memories, false memories. But that everything else happened, like, basically what I'm getting from the plot of this movie, what I'm predicting. So, you know, here's my official prediction for how the movie's going to go. We can look back on this for when the review happens, and we'll see how close I came. My official prediction is that the movie starts off right where Afterlife left off. The Umbrella Corporation shows up and starts attacking the ship with all the survivors on it. Alice is kicking ass, but then superpowered Jill comes down and beats her, knocks her out, or subdues her somehow. And that's when she starts having the weird flashbacks. Or they're going to show Luther, who of course conveniently escaped but is able to view everything, somehow sees where they go off to, or tracks them, or jumps onto one of the ships, and as Umbrella perfects the virus and everything, they are able to use Luther. He teams up with a resistance group that decides to form against Umbrella, Barry Burton and Leon Kennedy, and they use Ada Wong, or they team up also with Ada Wong, who I guess is going to be a Chinese agent or another agent who wants to break Umbrella's power grip. And Ada gets in and kind of frees Alice from her mind control, and they of course decide to exact retribution for what has been done on the Umbrella Corporation. I mean, I guess that's where the Retribution title gets, at least maybe comes more into play, if it's not just, you know, completely arbitrary, something, hey, this sounds cool, let's just throw it on the end, which I wouldn't put it past this series. But the ideal is, okay, it's time to exact some revenge on Umbrella. They've been getting away with some shit up until now. Because now you actually have the rebel group, possibly the Chinese government involved, possibly what remains of the U.S. government involved, if we're to take that scene from the first trailer where there's still soldiers on the White House. But, interesting. That's my official prediction for how the plot's going to go. Not that it's going to be shown that the first 3 movies were fake. I'm going to take it more as she's kind of having, you know, they're keeping her subdued, but her mind is continually haunted and is using her, I guess her subconscious, she's putting in characters that from her memory. She's like taking those characters and then implanting them into her own memories, and that's why subtly the zombies continue to break down the dreams. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it goes. Which is making me feel this is more of an Inception kind of ripoff in that regard. Because at least it does give an excuse why Ode Farrow's back, Rain, all these other characters who are dead. I was perfectly happy to accept that Umbrella was discloning them, which we still might see that. We still might have it pulled out that, hey, Umbrella discloned them. Because they were all Umbrella military personnel, so we can buy it that Umbrella's deciding to clone people. They cloned an entire army of Alice's. That came back to bite him in the ass, true. But, as I've made mention, it's weird how Umbrella seems to be getting bigger and bigger bases the more this series goes on, and it's supposed to be post-apocalypse, so that all this stuff had to have been built. I mean, the first Hive underground base was massive, but was believable. Like the way it was set up, you could kind of believe you could see this as a feasible how a base would be, underground laboratory would be set up. It was big, but it was just believable. You could suspend your suspension of disbelief. But then the third movie, they showed this massive facility. Then they got to Afterlife, and they had an even bigger facility with hangars and stuff. And now they have an underwater base. In fact, it seemed like they were flooding like New York in part of it. And it's making me wonder, are they going to go with some sort of weird... The ice caps melted because of the zombies. Turns out zombies are really bad for CO2 levels. Or they might be just trying to say they're recreations of New York, like they're manipulating people. I don't know how they're working with this. It'll be interesting to see, because I'm not sure if they have zombies with guns in this movie, because there was also a rocket launcher, and it looked like it was fired by a Russian soldier. So either they're kind of like the remnants of the Russian military who's deciding to resist Umbrella, or the zombies are just walking around. I mean, they did show a zombie Russian soldier with a not a chain gun, a chainsaw. So that it might be interesting. We'll see. You get the sense, at least, that they are definitely going for the more global scale. And as it also turns out that car chase with the tank-sized liquor takes place in Moscow, or at least or possibly a recreation of Moscow. Again, if like I said, it's that Umbrella isn't actually retaking control of these cities, but it's just put like recreations of them in an underground base. Which again, how the fuck did they build that? Again, they would have had to build this before the zombie apocalypse. The zombie apocalypse, which happened by accident, not design. At least we're led to believe that. I don't know. So we've got Inception now, basically. At least it explains somewhat of the weird flashbacks we saw, how that all works out, which was getting a lot of people confused. It at least somewhat makes sense now, as they're screwing with her mind and these are her memories. So maybe we won't see these characters back in the flesh, but at least it was an excuse, I guess, to bring the crew back together. Is this going to be the final one? I don't know. I guarantee you it's going to end with another kind of cliffhanger. Or maybe Paul W.S. Anderson is finally willing to let his baby rest. Maybe he's now going to go on and make a bazillion sequels to the Three Musketeers. I don't know if the Three Musketeers was as profitable or not. I didn't see it. But hey, it would be nice if they actually ended it, because I would hate for this series to end on a cliffhanger. But at the same time, the movies keep on making more money. That normally doesn't happen. Normally after the third, they kind of hit their peak and they start going downhill. Not with this series. I don't know why. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So please subscribe if you enjoyed it. Not necessarily the movie or the trailer, but if you liked my review of it, or my reaction to seeing it, subscribe. Hasta luego, signing off.